for myself, I don't fly these large jets, and for anyone watching, what does the airline define as an unstable approach?
An unstable approach is defined individually at airlines.
Okay.
But generally speaking, you want to be within 1 dot localize or 1 dot glide slope. Sometimes they say half dot, but 1 dot in any direction, or several degrees of the runway, as it were, on a non-precision approach. You need to be also in a normal position, the way it's stated in
91-175.
Exactly.
Yeah.
About proceeding from the minimum descent altitude or decision height to the runway. You need all those things.
So all that, look at that. So all that
Plus
is the same.
speed, it's all the same.
It's the same thing.
It's the same thing.
In order for me to
top
descend
bottom.
below minimums and land, I
Right.
have to do blah, blah, blah. And for you guys, the only difference with 121 is touchdown within the first third of the runway.
Also, there's also a 1,000-foot gate for us. It's typically by airline, but you want to be stable by 1,000, as it were, on a straight-in approach.
Right.
You really want to be stable sooner than that. It used to be when we were like learning to fly back in the day. I don't know if you're still doing this with your students, but they say, "Oh yeah, aim for the numbers." But that's a terrible thing to do because there's no runway behind you and 12,000 feet of runway in front of you in which you could do like 4 touch and goes in these 172s.
Right.
Don't know why it has to be the numbers. It can be the aiming point. For example, aim for the aiming point. How about that?
Yeah.
So we also, we aim for the aiming point. Now our new, power off, if you're trying to be fancy and be very efficient and fly the airplane the best you can, if you're really showing off for your coworkers or something like that, or just trying to save fuel because you need to, you want to do a power off, like descent at idle power, which is like the minimum fuel required for the rest of your flight. And if you were really hot stuff, then you would do a power off descent to the runway and touchdown.
No kid, you could do that.
Top of descent to runway. Absolutely. But you know what? The stakes are really high because if you miss it by 100 feet.
Right.
And 100 feet is nothing. 100 feet is a few seconds.
So to do that, you really need to figure out where am I going to extend my flaps and
you got to be
when.
really ahead. And you're really, really ahead and really switched
Feel
on.
the airplane.
You can do it. But now let's just say the new to the ground from top of descent is probably the final approach fix.
Interesting.
Let's get it. You want to be fancy and fly it idle down to the runway. Okay, but let's just do it at the final approach fix. It's just as good.
Right.
It's just a point that's arbitrary. You will have already had to be completely configured anyway.
Right.
You stand to lose very little if you were wrong.
Right.
By a little bit,
Right.
So let's just make it the final approach fix. And that way you get to the 1,000-foot gate, 1,000 feet before touchdown, that is, height above touchdown.
Right.
And you can have a stable approach and not sweat it and not make your coworkers sweat because we're talking professionalism, right? Don't put a guy in a position to say something to you.
That's true. Interesting. It's not just you in the cockpit. There's someone else.
And he's going to say, if he's worth his salt, he's going to say something to you if you're doing something out of the ordinary.
Right.
And he should.
Right.
Or she should, Well, part of my briefing when I talk to my my coworkers and the other pilots on the plane, I say, look, I'm going to do my best to share my mental model with you so that it doesn't look like I'm doing something out of the ordinary. You're always with me. And in that point, they think, yeah, all right. So, all right, whatever. But the truth of the matter is the most important part comes next. That's the setup. The punchline is if it looks like I'm doing something out of the ordinary, like I'm showing off, I'm just messing up. And I need you to say something to me. I ask them, say something to me. I have no ego about this. I want to get there in one piece, right? I want you to be all right. It's the implication is, look, this flight was great. If we don't have to write up the plane for maintenance and we didn't get in trouble, this is a wonderful thing. We don't have to write a report.
Right.
No paperwork. We did great.
Right.
And there's no space in the cockpit for our egos.
Right.
In order to do that. Because, you'll be wrong.
Easier said than done.
Absolutely.
Easier said than done.
Absolutely. But that's where professionalism has to be your priority and not your own ego.
So in a way, it's like it's a professional. That's why it's a professional job. Professional airline pilot.
That's right.
That's why that's the term.
That's it.
You have to be professional.
You said it.